Well, hey there, 11th graders. Welcome to your U.S. History Distance Learning Plan for weeks 8 through 9. My name is Mr. Hiller, and I work on the Social Studies team for DCPS at Central Office. I'll be with you for the next few minutes to go over this week 8 through 9 Distance Learning Plan for 11th grade U.S. History. Let's get to it. So let's turn to your Distance Learning Plan. You'll notice a big, compelling question on the cover. What does change look like in America? You'll also notice a photo of women protesters in favor of the Equal Rights Amendment in Chicago in the year 1978. Part of your learning for the next 2 weeks, we'll take a look at these types of protests and other change movements going on in our country over the last 50 to 60 years. So again, our topic is social and political movements from the 1960s on forward. We again have a big compelling question. What does change look like in America? In order to answer that question effectively, we're going to break it down into supporting questions. First, what kinds of strategies did the civil rights movement use to promote change? Second, how did more radical organizations advocate for change by the late 1960s? Third, how did Richard Nixon change the presidency? And then fourth, how have other movements changed America? This breakdown of the 8-day distance learning plan can be found on page 2 of your distance learning packets. So let's take a look at each of the 4 supporting questions to give you an idea of what you'll be doing. Supporting question 1 asks, what kinds of strategies did the civil rights movement use to promote change? You'll notice a photo here of Martin Luther King meeting with Malcolm X. On the first day of the distance learning, you will engage with a civil rights timeline, secondary sources that focus in on the Greensboro sit-ins and the Freedom Rides of 1961, and you'll also look at some photos from the era. On the second day, you'll engage with primary sources, getting into multiple perspectives. As you can see, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, 2 completely different people. And while they were advocating for change in the same time period, didn't mean they were going about it always in the same way. You'll use a graphic organizer to corroborate these multiple perspectives by the end of day 2. Supporting question 2, how did more radical organizations advocate for change by the late 1960s? You'll spend 1 day here doing a close read of the Black Panther Party's platform. And again, a platform is their political beliefs and ideas. What is their theory of change that they wanted to see happen? You'll go through the text and then you'll answer analysis questions on the subject. As we move into the late 1960s, we'll also start to look at the political ramifications of the era. The election of 1968, which you'll look at on day 4, and the Nixon presidency through a timeline, these are really important bridges between the 1950s and 60s in terms of civil rights and where the country was moving to going to the late 1970s and into the 1980s. So pay close attention to how people were responding to the civil rights movement through Nixon's words and actions. We'll finally spend time with supporting question 4. How have other movements changed America? Since the 1960s, we've seen numerous other groups of people come together to push for change in our country. So you'll take time to look at the women's rights movement. You'll take time to look at the anti-Vietnam War movement. You'll take time to look at the LGBTQ movement. You'll also have an opportunity, so if you so choose, to engage in a digital extension where you can continue this historical inquiry looking at other movements, such as the United Farm Workers movement led by Cesar Chavez, or Native American rights, or disability rights. You'll also spend 1 day taking a look at a conservative response to some of the movements that were going on in our country, and how many states have become more conservative, while other states have stayed more liberal, generally speaking, knowing that there are conservatives and liberals in every state. You pay close attention to the platform of the Republican Party in 1980 and how it compares to the platform of the Republican Party in the 2000s today. It's pretty fascinating stuff. All of this great learning using all 4 supporting questions will get you ready and prepared for the performance task, where you'll be able to write a persuasive speech about some of the social and political changes that have taken place in America since 1960, and you'll argue for or against the ideas and goals of one or more of those movements. Be sure to use your knowledge that you've learned from this distance learning plan, and if needed, any additional research you found. Multi-paragraph outline has also been provided to organize your thinking. We really thank you for watching this distance learning plan overview video. I speak for your teachers when I say we're super excited to see what you come up with in your persuasive speeches and look forward to hearing about your great learning as you work from home.